If you are struggling from years of gut imbalances, maybe candida, maybe IBS, or some other type of gut issues that you just seem to not be able to get rid of. If you are also consuming stevia and nutritional yeast and foods with natural flavors, or you even drink some fruit juice, listening and watching this interview may make you reconsider those ingredients in your diet. Hey guys, my name is Judy Cho and I'm board certified in holistic nutrition. And I have a private practice where we have served over 2,000 clients and patients get to root cause healing. And we often start with the Carnivore Cures all meat elimination diet. Today, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Bethany. She is also known as Little Sipper on Instagram and on her website. And she has very fun and easy recipes that are supportive of gut health and that require very little or no sugar at all. In this interview, you will hear her gut healing journey. And while she never went full carnivore during her healing process, she'll share a lot of what it took to start healing. For many of you, just going strict carnivore and using the Carnivore Cures elimination diet where you start with beef, salt, and water is easier than doing a lot of the things that Bethany has tried. Still, some people don't want to go really strict carnivore. Of course, this is very individualized, but I hope that this conversation gives you hope that gut healing is possible. What you'll learn from Bethany is that you really do need tenacity and resilience to keep going so that you can finally get healing. Let's get right into this interview. Hi, Bethany. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to have you with me and have my community get to know you a little bit more. For the people that may not have heard of you, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Judy, for having me on your show. I'm a huge fan, been a longtime listener now, so it's really great to join your community. So my name is Bethany Cameron, also known as Little Sipper on Instagram and other social media platforms. And I don't want to say I quote specialize, but I focus a lot on digestive issues because I had dealt with it myself to the point of almost death. And so because of my past history dealing with it, I had to kind of basically heal myself because doctors weren't helping. And so because of my past, I had to do my own research with studies, trial and error, years and years of this. And so I do focus a lot on gut health. And thankfully, I'm obviously here today, here to share my story and help a lot of those struggling, unfortunately, with digestive issues.
Can you tell us a little bit about your history? So, were you diagnosed with a certain digestive dysfunction, imbalance?
Yeah, so this was back in, I would say like 2014. And I went to all sorts of specialists, like top of the line Cedars-Sinai in Beverly Hills. They did all of the tests. And it was, yes, they did diagnose me, but it wasn't like, this is what you have. It's like, yeah, you have IBS. Like, okay, great. Um, they do a blanket term. They did tell me I had gastritis and also gastroparesis. And gastroparesis is when basically it's paralysis of the stomach. So it's when your stomach muscles they stop contracting. So your stomach muscles always like go in and out and they contract and help food move down your digestive tract. Well, mine were paralyzed. So food wasn't going anywhere. And it was sitting there rotting. And so that was just one of many issues I had going on all at once. And so the only solution that I was given by doctors was take this pill to hopefully help mobilize your gut. They also found candida, yeast overgrowth. I had parasites. I mean, basically, you name it, I had it.
Okay. And then in terms of the your healing journey, so I'm guessing that maybe you tried some of their pills, some of maybe if they even had any dietary recommendations, and that wasn't working enough. So where did you start doing research and figuring out solutions for you to start really getting better?
Yeah, so I did try some of the Western medicine, the medications, and I had really bad side effects from it. And so I had to stop. I was still living with my parents at the time. I was, still like kind of under their care because where else was I going to go? I was literally, um, well, at this point, I wasn't like overly thin. I've always been pretty slender in general, but I got really like skin and bones, and after I was actually put on these so-called natural holistic pills, which was about 30 pills a day.
Wow.
And I was steered in the wrong direction by a quote holistic practitioner who I feel just took advantage of me and wanted to sell me his supplements. And through all of that, that's when I lost tons of weight because I couldn't keep anything down. I was supposed to be taking all of these pills and supplements from his company or regimen, and um, all of that too. I could hardly eat anything because I was battling a very severe case of candida and yeast in my body, as well as like a fungus, which we can get into later. Yeah, so it was just a combination of so many things, including parasites. And to answer your question, I knew a holistic doctor who's a family friend, a different holistic doctor, who basically brought me back to health, basically took me under his wing, saw him regularly once a week, told me what to do, how to do it, and again, which we can get into, but it's not about the foods that you eat. Yes, it is, but it's also about how you consume them, how you cook them, how you prepare them, how you take the skins off, like different things that really made a huge difference. And so in about 9 months, I was able to regain a lot of weight back. I was able to start my digestive system, so I was able to digest food again. But I did have to go on a purée diet for about 9 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what do you think caused your digestive issues? So in our practice, we'll find people that'll say there was this onset of food poisoning when I traveled, and that then got me sick. Other people will say I was always a colicky. I had issues when I was a baby, and ever since I've always had gut issues. For you, was there a specific moment? Was it just all of a sudden you got sick?
That's a great question. So, in fact, I was actually speaking with someone yesterday about this, and I totally forgot because it just blocked it out of my mind. But when I was 14 years old, I went on a cruise to Mexico with my family, and I got severely, severely sick on the cruise. Like still the worst sickness I've ever
Wow.
experienced: stomach, throwing up, diarrhea. And I've never been the same since. However, I don't know if that was kind of like the opening door to opening up a lot of like pathogens, because I'm sure your audience knows it's a lot easier to get some sort of disease when your gut is already compromised. So all that to say is, fast forward a few years, I started really getting into the fitness industry. I had gotten divorced. My husband had left me. And so that was a whole traumatic experience. And because of that, I started doing yoga, and then I started getting into the gym, and I wasn't really into like the quote health space. But I did start to really try and go that route. However, I was very misled by a lot of the gym fanatics, and what they're selling at the gym, and they're pushing these crappy protein bars and all these things. And, I fell into it. So yeah, I would go to the gym. I was a gym junkie. I'd work out, which put my um, digestive system totally out of whack, because you're never in a rest and digest state. And I was eating these protein bars. I don't know if I'm allowed to name names here, but like,
Totally
I'm sure
fine.
we all know the ones, that are just horrible for you, thinking that they're great. Downing protein shakes, eating packaged food. And I think that was a huge contributing factor of me just being tricked by the industry. And I would get bloated all the time. And I'd be like, why am I bloated? Like, why am I like this protein bar? It says it has tons of fiber. It's low in carbs. It's zero sugar. It's sweetened with stevia or whatever. And it just didn't make sense to me because it was marketed as the healthy thing to eat. But yeah, so I think that was definitely a contributing factor. I also got breast implants right after I got divorced. And I'm not saying that I had breast implant illness. I don't think I'll ever know. I had them in me for about 8 or 9 years. And then since then, I have had them removed. So I got an explant. And so I do know, though, that foreign objects in your body, such as breast implants, can cause a lot of gut issues too. So there was that. Um, I was also eating a lot of nutritional yeast, which I thought was good for me. And it's touted that it's great. It's B vitamins, gives you energy. And I thought, well, this is great. So I was adding nutritional yeast to everything. Come to find out, I got a really extensive test done by Genova Labs, and they found a really bad case of something called fungemia. And fungemia, after my own research, I mean, this took forever to find. I found the connection that it is indeed linked to nutritional yeast, and also a certain probiotic strain, which is S. cerevisiae, I would say. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's S. cerevisiae, and I'm probably butchering the name. But it's a probiotic, and it's all in the same family. And it's also what I believe has caused my fungemia. I have a whole blog post about it with links tracking back to what it is, and then the connection between fungemia and nutritional yeast. So again, I unknowingly was literally poisoning myself, and my health quickly declined, quickly.
And I'll link to your article in our notes, and I'll look into that strain too, so that we make sure we get the right strain. Um, yeah, it's your story is not different than many of our clients, where their health starts declining in some way, maybe gut issues, maybe it's hormone issues, and then so they start going into the wellness space and trusting what people say always works, and then it doesn't work for them, and then they start getting more and more chronically ill, where they start distrusting a lot of what they're being recommended from their doctors, their functional naturopaths, and then they have to start being their own advocate, because like you, their health starts declining. You mentioned your other holistic doctor. Tell me a little bit about the recommendations from our practice. For being open for so many years, we learned that yes, meat is so nutritionally dense, but for some people, they don't want to go that strict. And like, I think you found some of the tricks, in a sense, of maybe taking off the skin and certain things that will help support the gut. And maybe you don't have to go strict carnivore to be able to heal. Maybe you can share some of those recommendations.
Yeah, well, I do know, I mean, a lot of your listeners are probably either carnivore or carnivore curious.
Mhm.
And so, first of all, what my holistic doctor had me do was eliminate all packaged food. He's like, if you want milk, you're going to make it, you're going to make your own almond milk or whatever. If you want bread, you're going to make it. And it wasn't going to be from wheat, it was going to be from like a grain-free source. If he's like, throw out all the package. And I had a lot of bone broth. I had a lot of bone broth, and I made my own bone broth with a whole chicken in a pot the night before. And then, you put it in the refrigerator, and then it gelatinizes, and you do that whole thing. And then I would eat the chicken. I would also cook up beef, ground beef. And as I had mentioned previously, I had to go on a puree diet. And I don't want to confuse people and have them think it was liquid. Not liquid, pureed. Like, think applesauce consistency, yogurt consistency. And I would cook my meat, and then I would put it in the blender, and I would puree the meat, and think of like pate, right? So it would be like that. And I would have to eat it with a spoon. And that was a huge for me. And I couldn't eat it all at once. I had to eat like 1 tablespoon every hour, like 1 tablespoon every hour. But if you do that all day long, you're going to eat like 2 hamburger patties in a day. You know what I mean? Throughout the day. So I had to treat my body like a newborn baby. You're not going to feed a baby a steak, right? You're going to feed them milk or something pureed, because their body cannot digest or chew the type of foods that we would normally eat as adults. And so also the pureeing process gave my digestion a break from digesting, right? And so I wouldn't have to put out so much energy and I wouldn't have to burn so much calories to digest that food. And so for anyone really struggling, that's another thing that helped me gain weight, is because I didn't have to, exert any extra energy that I didn't need to have to exert. And so that was really huge for me too. I did eat white rice and I mixed that with yogurt. It's a very staple combination in the Middle Eastern cuisine. And so that was very helpful. And the mixture of rice and yogurt can actually help your gut bacteria, and it helps it flourish, believe it or not. And again, this is something that my holistic doctor, which I mean, he flies all over the world helping princes and kings and movie stars and all of these people. And it's something that I still enjoy. It's really tasty. It's almost like rice pudding. So that was another thing. I can tell you like want to ask me a question, but I do want to tell you there was a fruit smoothie that really helped, and it contained 4 fruits, and it provided all the enzymes I needed to really help digest the food. And it was kiwi, papaya, mango, and pineapple. So I would blend those 4 fruits together for the entire week, put them in little cups, and then freeze the cups. And each day I'd take out a cup and consume only about a half a cup. It wasn't like this big jug or big glass of a fruit smoothie. It was just, a half a cup at most. And I would drink that a little bit throughout the day for live active enzymes that were coming from the fruits.
Were you selective in that the fruits can only be organic or a certain place that you had to purchase it, or?
Great question. So no, at the time, this was like, again, back in like 2014. And so organic at the time, I still was exploring the health space. I wasn't into organic. I knew maybe what it was, and it wasn't even as big back then as it is today. So glyphosate, didn't even know what glyphosate was back then. And so it wasn't organic. And through all that, it's a great question, because I think we all can relate in our health journey. We want to know more, we want to learn more, we want to be better, and to take our health to the next level. And so, now I'm very conscious of that. But no, it wasn't. And I don't want to tell people, oh, you have to get organic, because
Right.
if conventional is all you can afford, buy conventional. It's still a lot better than packaged food that's out there, and probably even a lot better than the average American's diet today.
Yeah, and I don't think that all fruits are genetically modified. So for sure they're hybridized, but I don't think all of them are. So I bet you some of the fruits, like I don't know if mangoes are GMO'd yet. I don't think they are, but who knows?
Who
Um,
knows? I know papaya is. That's
okay.
top. Yeah.
But it is interesting. So I don't know if the audience knows, but a lot of our digestive enzymes, when we purchase digestive enzymes so that we can break down our meats, there are certain digestive enzymes that are really catered towards carbohydrate breakdown, and some of those are from fruits. And so I know it sounds like, oh no, she's eating fructose, but it's really that what you're saying is you were able to get the, like you said, the raw live enzymes from fruits that you can break down. And because one, you're so thin that you're probably not blood sugar dysregulated, and also you just needed the digestive enzymes or the natural enzymes to help break down for your supporting your gut. It's an interesting take. I never thought of it that way, but it's true. Like a lot of, I think it's the papain in pineapples, for example, that can support your digestive function. So it totally makes sense.
If you are eating a pineapple, the digestive enzymes are really concentrated in the core.
Okay. Okay, I didn't
So,
even know that. Yeah, I
yeah.
think the other one is bromelain. And now that you're bringing up pineapple,
Mhm.
so that totally makes sense. So you said that you were eating pureed foods, and we do have a couple clients that eat pureed. It just helps their digestive function. And in terms of how did you know that 8 or 9 months in that you could start eating something beyond pureed?
Yeah, great question. So, I was really monitored by my holistic doctor, saw him
Okay.
once a week, and I would gradually quote graduate. And maybe one week I would eat like one thing that wasn't pureed, but then the rest of my meals
Okay.
were, you know? And so then I would introduce like one, maybe fruit or one little thing and test to see how I was able to digest it and then graduate and incorporate more unpureed food.
From your whole journey, was other than the packaged food, was there a certain food or foods that you now realize these foods are really like humans should not be eating them?
Yeah, so at the time I didn't know it, but kale. I know there's like this whole controversy about kale. I was even pureeing. I was cooking
Okay.
it down, I was steaming it, and then I was pureeing it, thinking, well, this is fine. I still think it did not serve me. Some people do fine with it, not me. And I know everyone is bio individual. So I did not eat a lot of vegetables too at the time. I did, you know, I still don't actually. I feel like a little kid, like, I don't want to eat my vegetables, but I didn't eat a lot of vegetables. If I did eat a vegetable, it was definitely steamed, and it was something like peas or um, maybe like zucchini or something like that.
And then so you mentioned skins and like a mix of certain foods. Can you tell us a few of those tips that you're talking about?
Yeah, so skins, especially, let's just say, for example, apple skins, that can be really irritant. Cucumber skins, especially, cucumbers are really helpful for your digestive tract. They can actually soothe the gut. I have a podcast all about cucumbers and the benefits. However, the skins are the opposite and they can irritate the gut. So you definitely want to skin the skins or peel the skins of cucumbers. Also, nightshades in general, like tomato skins, pepper skins. If you wanted, even till this day, like if I want to have a bell pepper, maybe like stuff a bell pepper with some meat, it's always advised to peel the skin from the bell pepper, and the digestibility is like a 180. It's amazing.
Okay. And then what about cooking down? Because when I did my research on a lot of the anti-nutrients in plants, it seemed that if you, and not all of them, but for many of the plants, if you were to just cook down in some form or fashion, that would also help reduce some of the anti-nutrients. So, in addition, then it would break down some of those proteins that would then allow it to be more digestible. Did you
Yeah,
see the cooking also playing a part?
definitely. Even till this day.
Okay.
I mean, I'm thankful that I can eat a lot of raw items. However, I do notice still to this day that I can digest them a lot better when they're cooked. And I think maybe not today, but back then there was this whole myth like, oh, if you cook your vegetables, there's no nutrients in it. And now we all know now there's tons of studies out that actually even lightly steaming them almost like releases more nutrients in the vegetable that you are steaming. And there's tons of studies, you know, to prove that actually, if you lightly steam a vegetable, the nutrients in that vegetable are now more bioavailable.
No, it makes sense, especially if there's those enzymes or proteins that are sort of protecting the plant. If you break those down, then it probably becomes more bioavailable for our human digestion and absorption. So that totally makes sense. In terms of, I know you've done a lot of research on natural flavors and stevia. And so I want to get into all of that. But in your journey, do you feel now that you can sort of eat anything and you're okay? Because I know a lot of people struggle with gut health and they will stay on carnivore. And if I only eat a certain kind of meat, non aged, cooked in a certain way, then my gut is okay with certain supplements. For other people, it's not fully okay with just carnivore. And so the question always is, can I fully heal my gut? And of course, if we're always eating processed foods, it'll get impacted again. But is your gut so much better now that if you really wanted to eat other foods that you could?
That's a great question. Again, like, man, you're coming in hot with all the questions. Well, short answer is yes, I still do get stomach upsets.
Okay.
And I think that there's more factors to that because it depends on if I'm on my cycle or not. It depends on how stressful I was that day, if I'm going through a very stressful period in time. Like my husband and I, we recently moved, we recently bought a house and all these things. And so during that time, my gut was not functioning fully just because of all of the stress that came with moving and all the things, and then still working two jobs, which I still do. And so it just depends on the stress levels. And I definitely notice when I am not stressed or overworked or rushing, I can digest things better. Maybe you're not stressed, but you're just like rushing, you're in the car, you're just trying to get the kids, and you're just like grabbing something to eat where your body is not in a state, as parasympathetic state, to actually digest that food. So you really have to be more mindful and conscious of not what you're eating, not only what you're eating, not only how it's prepared, but how and where you're eating it in your environment, because it's a huge factor.
Okay, so it sounds like stress also plays a role in your gut health, if regardless of food.
For sure.
Okay, I just need to reiterate that for the community because I think oftentimes we want it just to be food. So if I just eat this food, or if I just take this supplement, or if I just do this thing, then everything will be okay. But I really do think stress plays such a huge factor, and we kind of don't want to believe that. And we just think, oh, everyone has stress, but I really think it does a huge number on our bodies. So it totally makes sense. And
Yeah.
in Is there anything else that you've done non-dietary wise, other than maybe managing stress, to support your gut?
I I mean, I really think exercise can be good or bad. It really depends on how severe your gut is and where you are in your journey. There was definitely a time and place where exercise would actually aggravate my digestion. And then there have been times where exercise, not hardcore exercise, but maybe like Pilates or like yoga or something, it actually helped. And I got, it debloated me or something. And so I think exercise can be a very helpful tool depending on where you are, and how severe your symptoms are.
No, I think that totally makes sense. I was just reading a lot of research on exercise recently, and it helps your nervous system re-regulate. So if you do more like cardio and intense exercise, that would get you more where your adrenaline and your cortisol be releasing, which is probably not good for somebody that's having gut issues. But yoga and meditation can also calm the body and get it in a more rested state. So that would be better prepared to then eat or support your digestive system. So it totally makes sense. So you have these incredible recipes online, and you share healthy recipes that are not processed. And I think you have a line of products that I'd love for you to share in a second. But let's talk about some of the research you've done and why you create these recipes, because it's not just here's a cool low carb recipe or a fun recipe, but it's also recipes to support your gut health, which I love. You mentioned natural flavors. I'd love to hear more about the research you found. We think, oh, this product says sparkling water and natural flavors, so it's healthy. There's nothing else part of it, but you did a deep dive on it. Can you tell us a little bit about natural flavors, what that means? Is it even healthy?
Yeah, well, I even did like this post about it on my Instagram a while back, and it just went viral. Everyone was resharing it. And I've talked about natural flavors for many years, since like 2017, from my own research too. And everyone told me that I was crazy, that I am just fear mongering. But now there's more research out that one natural flavor can have 1,000, I think, or maybe more than 1,000 sub ingredients.
Wow.
So if you see like natural strawberry flavor, there could be like 1,000 ingredients in the natural strawberry flavor, and it doesn't have to actually come from a natural source, which is crazy.
Oh,
Like there's
really?
even, oh yeah, there's even a YouTube video about it and how they actually create these quote natural flavors in a lab. And it's just amazing. And I want your listeners to really think, I don't know how much you've talked about fragrance and how that could be an endocrine disruptor. And fragrance is just, a blanket statement on different things, but think of natural flavors as the fragrance of food. and it creates addiction. And there's really, the FDA, there's really no guidelines or rules of what you can put in a natural flavor. And it's very loosely used, and it's a loose term. And if you are, let's say, allergic to peanuts or soy or wheat, things can come from those products and be put in the natural flavor. So maybe you are like strict carnivore or paleo and you don't eat soy. Well, a natural flavor could contain that, or it could contain something else that maybe you are trying to avoid. I know I'm like going real deep here, but
No, it's good. It's good.
it's a lot. I mean, and you don't have to really disclose. If you're a company, you have to disclose what those natural flavors are, even organic natural flavors.
Wow, I'm really surprised. So when I wrote Carnivore Cure a few years ago, I found the definition of natural flavors, which it's a full paragraph, and I think it was from the FDA, and I thought as long as it originally started with some natural thing, then if it gets changed, it's okay. But you're saying that it doesn't even have to start with something natural?
No, there's even like
Okay.
research to say that like natural flavors and artificial flavors are basically the same thing. And again, it's really tricky because I have spoke with companies before asking them about their natural flavors. And by law, they are required to put natural flavor instead of, let's just say, for example, I spoke to with one company and I was like, oh, it says natural lemon flavor. And they said, "Ugh, we're actually required to put natural lemon flavor, but we actually use lemon oil." But they couldn't put lemon oil
Right.
on for whatever reason. So there's also that situation, which is very frustrating. So if you really are concerned or curious about something like a product you're eating and it has natural flavors on it, go call the company and ask them, like, what's the source of your natural flavor? And one, if they can't tell you, that's a red flag right there.
Right.
Two, if they don't get back to you, again, another red flag. And three, if they come back to you and tell you the truth, good for them for telling you the truth, but most likely it's going to be, a synthetic thing, or they'll say, oh, it's a proprietary, right? We can't tell you, and that's another red flag.
Is there a delineation between natural versus artificial flavoring, or is that up to the company to just decide if they have to pick one or the other?
There is a difference. The artificial does contain chemicals, like more
Okay. Okay.
chemicals, but the natural flavors still doesn't necessarily come from like something natural or like
Okay.
the plant. Like you would think natural flavor, it's like, oh, it's just an extract of
Yes.
lemon juice or something.
Okay. So do you try to steer clear of all natural flavors or products that have natural flavors?
I do, for different reasons. One, I have become very sensitive to it after taking it out of my diet. Now I'll get
I see.
headaches.
Okay.
Some people bloat. Some people, I actually have a friend, he's going through Lyme disease right now. And he's going through a holistic practitioner. And they told him, you have to eliminate natural flavors because it's a histamine, it's high histamine.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, it's,
It-
it's sketchy.
yeah. Oh no, no, totally. In terms of the while you're talking about Lyme, I had a question. So I saw a little bit of your shares on stevia, and it's pretty compelling. I'd love to just ask because in the keto space, stevia is considered one of the natural leaves, and it's healthier. But you've showed a lot of research where you think otherwise. But then in the Lyme space, they also say that stevia can eradicate some of the bacteria. But it's the true pure leaf. If you could share your thoughts on stevia, is it safe?
Yeah, I know it's such a controversial topic. So, first of all, if you are buying stevia and putting it in your coffee or tea and it's a white powder,
Right.
throw it out because that goes through a 42-step process from getting to the green stevia leaf that grows to the white powder that you're putting in your baked goods or coffee or tea. A 42-step
Wow.
process, which includes chemical extractions, bleaching. I mean, think about it. how does a green leaf become a white powder?
Right.
Like, let that sink in, right? You can get online some pure stevia ground leaf. And if you order it, it does come and it's a green powder, right? It's basically dried up stevia leaf ground into a powder. So some people don't have an effect that for that. I have mixed feelings about it because yes, it is natural, it's fine. Um, and it's not really processed. So if you wanted to use that, I would definitely recommend going that route. However, stevia has been used as a contraceptive and it is known to be an endocrine disruptor in general. So if you are trying to conceive or trying to get pregnant, I would definitely look into that a little bit more, as stevia being a contraceptive. It was used, I mean, way back in the day, for that. It's also been shown to disrupt the gut microbiome and the gut bacteria. I do think that that study was based off of the bleached, processed stevia. But then there's also some research that stevia can be a biofilm disruptor, which is a good thing.
Right.
But there's also so many other things you can use for biofilm disruption, right? So you can opt for those instead of stevia. So, you'll find all these people, and for your audience, maybe they do, maybe they don't know, but stevia is also owned by Big Sugar.
Mm.
So, they own the sugar, they own the stevia. They're just making money both ways.
Sure. And I mean, in reality of what you just shared, most people aren't getting the natural stevia leaf that's green. Most people are getting the white powder or the processed liquids. So most people are getting that 42-step stevia. It's always like a hard recommendation for my clients. So in my book, I shared a lot of the gut issues and that how it still tricks your brain that there's something sweet coming down and then it's not there. And so then how does that disrupt our whole microbiome? But people have a hard time then sticking to a diet without that sweet palate. There's some electrolytes companies that use stevia. And so they might include that. But for some people, stevia becomes a bridge because they have such a hard time getting sweet out of their system. Do you have any recommendations for those people that are, they acknowledge that, okay, maybe I do have a little bit of a sugar addiction or cravings. And so stevia kind of bridges that. I know it's not the best for me. Is there another sweetener that you maybe recommend or some other way to deal with that?
Well, regarding the electrolyte packets, so I mean, as someone online, I always recommend. I mean, I don't want to like promote any kind of like brand, but I also use an electrolyte. But I always opt for the raw, the unflavored version, and typically those ones, I'm sure. Hopefully, a lot of companies do offer a plain or unflavored version. Typically, those do not have natural flavors or stevia or sweetener. And so a lot of people don't like it because, of course, they want flavor, they want, a sweet taste. But for me, I always opt for that. And when you take all that stuff out and then you reintroduce it, because I've done it, I get immediate headaches. It actually tastes horrible, believe it or not.
Right.
And it tastes overly sweet or too artificial from the flavors. And so I would recommend trying to take all that stuff out for like a week, like do a little experiment, take it all out. And then I encourage you to put it back in and see how your body responds to it. See if you get a headache immediately. See like how it tastes. Because most likely you will be like, whoa, like this is way sweet, or this tastes like a chemical now. And for me, when I do my baked goods and things and share recipes, I actually never add a sweetener. And of course, if people want to add a sweetener of their choice, they can. And that's, it'll still work. The recipe will still work if they want to add a sweetener. But I always provide them with the bare minimum and the basics. And they can doctor it up if they want. But in regards to your other question is, do I have a sweetener I would recommend? I know it's not keto, but I want to say I feel like it is kind of carnivore-ish, and it's raw honey.
Okay.
And raw honey is just amazing. And honestly, I find that myself included, when I consume 0-calorie sweeteners, my body is never satisfied from that sweetness. And it's because it's not it's fake sugar,
Right.
basically. So your body is not like saying, ah, oh, okay, I got the sugar. So even if I consume like the stevia or whatever, my body is like craving more sweet now. It's like wanting more and more. And it's going to crave that sugar until I finally give it the sugar and be like, okay, I got the sugar now. It's kind of like when you eat those, like, I don't know, like if you eat like a fat-free diet and you're like, man, I had so many fat-free whatever, but I'm still hungry. It's because you need fat for satiation.
Right.
It's almost that same thing. And I know I'm not telling you to eat, 5 tablespoons of sugar or honey, but just a little bit of raw honey, which is so medicinal, can really satisfy that craving.
No, I think in a perfect world, that is the best. There was an Instagram post I saw years ago, and I thought there was so much truth to it. I think it was a low carb keto ice cream that if you look at the ingredients to make it the way it tastes, there's a lot of artificial natural flavors or whatever all those ingredients are, and it's really long. And then they compared it to Haagen-Dazs ice cream, which is just milk. I think it was like eggs, sugar, and whatever the
Yeah.
natural. And even though Haagen-Dazs is still somewhat processed, you can't deny that Haagen-Dazs is somewhat healthier than that keto version ice cream. So in all reality, if people could eat just like a spoonful of ice cream that's naturally prepared, that's definitely better. I think it's when people are so addicted to sugar that any amount of even honey will then trigger it. But I agree with you. I think the long-term goal is to be able to use a natural sweetener like honey that is naturally made instead of using any of the sweeteners, because I do find it very odd that in our keto space we support using all these unnatural sweeteners, but we're like so against full sugar, but one is more natural than the other. So I totally agree with you there. I do see, I don't know if it is that just a little bit of honey then triggers some people to go, okay, now I just need to, like, I cheated and now I need to go all out. But I do see that struggle too. But I also see people struggle with stevia and they use it all day or, for days. And then one day they struggle and then they go and eat the real sugar. So I think people just need to figure out what works best for them. I think in a perfect world, so my kids, for example, if I'm feeding them raw milk, I may add a little bit of raw honey instead of, and I prefer to do that than stevia. And of course, I
Mhm.
make sure that their blood sugar is balanced. But I'm with you right there.
Yeah, and to your point too, that you know, uh, I mean, I get it. Like, I had to not even have any sugar when I had like the candida overgrowth, right? Because maybe someone's and they're like they have a yeast overgrowth or they're struggling with something and honey is just not on the table for them. I totally get it. So, but I also think too, if someone is really addicted to sugar, um, I would definitely look at why you're addicted. Maybe you have a yeast overgrowth because when your body craves sugar, it craves carbs, or excuse me, when your body craves sugar, that is the yeast speaking, like, give me the sugar, give me the carbs, you know?
No, I totally agree with that. You had a post on fruit juice. Tell me a little bit about certain fruit juices. And so then are the organic ones better? I mean, tell me a little bit about like an ingredient you found or yeah.
Yeah, well, I wasn't even planning. This was, I don't even know how long ago, but it keeps getting reshared and reshared and
Okay.
reshared. But they use carmine in a lot of quote natural fruit juices. So people probably read carmine in the ingredient list and are like, okay, whatever. Well, that's a bug. And they use that as a way to color something. They usually typically use carmine as for like red or pink hues. So you'll see it in Jello, you'll see it in fruit snacks, fruit juices that are red or pink. And they use that instead of red number 40 to make it, I guess, obviously they don't want to use the dyes, which I appreciate, but you are also eating crushed up bugs. And it's even used in natural makeup, like lipstick and blush and things. It's a little interesting because in general, I just feel like the food and drug companies, and they are just not being truthful. Just say what it is, because carmine is just a really nice way of saying there's a bug in here. Like really don't try and beat around the bush, because now they're trying to manipulate different names like acacia fiber that can really cause upsets. But now it's okay to put acacia or, acacia gum, or like FOS is the same as inulin, or hickory root fiber is also the same as FOS. Or you can also use hickory root fiber instead of using that, which a lot of people are avoiding, which they should. You can also use the term prebiotic fiber, which sounds a lot better than hickory root fiber, right? Oh, it's a prebiotic. It's great. So all that to say is, if you don't know what something is in a product and you're reading the label, do your research, because that could be like the one thing that's causing you just discomfort in your digestive system.
Yeah, I think that's where carnivore becomes such a beautiful thing. If you're just eating the meats, at least if you're starting it as an elimination diet, you don't have to worry about the ingredients because it's really just meat. And hopefully it stays that way. But I'm curious, when you were doing the research on that insect, do they harvest the insects, or I mean, how do they even get the
Oh,
insect?
I mean, for like the mass production, I'm sure they are. I mean, they're not just getting wild insects. They are, growing them in labs and things like that.
Okay.
Speaking of growing in labs, I'm sure you've talked about the lab grown meat now and all of that. So, and even if it's grown in a lab and it's, quote, safe, I'm just like, what's happening? What's happening to our food system? It is
Right.
breaking down.
I feel that when humans try to recreate things that God made, there's no way that it's exactly the same. And I did a podcast a long time ago about it, but it's to grow, even if you have all the proteins and cell structures and all of that, there just might be some things that you did not think of when it's grown in a lab that is not as natural as when it's an animal that's just naturally raised. And I think when you have a subset of the chronically ill that are so sick and they rely on a meat that's naturally raised, and now you take that away and all you have is this lab grown meat, there's got to be something that now the person that's chronically ill cannot tolerate it. And that's where, when that information was coming out, it just was really upsetting, because you're taking the one food that could really be medicine for some people, and healing them, and now you may take that even off as an option. And then it's just so sad because we don't think about the downstream effects, and whether it's on purpose because of money, power, it's just, I don't know what they are doing to our food system. And that's why we're doing these podcasts. It's to advocate for people to understand, where we spend our dollar or our currency really matters, because that's where we say, no, we want the natural meats. We want the quality foods, even if it's vegetables or fruits, it's the ones that are naturally made and not processed in a bag or in a container.
No, you hit the nail on the head, Judy. I mean, you're completely right. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, the food and drug, like food companies, the drug companies, I mean, they're owned by the same people. It's all under one umbrella. And to me, sometimes I can, go down a rabbit hole or be a conspiracy theorist, but to me, I think, I mean, they definitely want us sick, so that we have to get these pharmaceuticals that they're making money off of. So we get sick off of the food that they're making, and we also make them rich by paying them for the pharmaceuticals we got, from the food we got sick from. It's just this circle here.
Yeah. And the one extra conspiracy theory I'd add to that is, and then if you're sick and tired and in a fog, you don't know what they're doing in terms of control and, taking away our rights and stuff, because we're all just going to listen because we're too busy being sick and in a brain fog. So I totally get that. I think you have a protein, and you have some products. If you can just share what made you create these products? And is it good for gut health?
Yeah. So when I was severely ill, right, and I had to, I was on like the puree diet. So I was trying to get more protein in there. I found this company and it was like the one protein powder that I could digest and get some protein. And I would mix it with some water and I would make this like protein pudding. And fast forward, I started working with the company as just an influencer and affiliate. And I got to know like the head CEO of the company. And I reached out and I was like, look, I like your protein, but it still contains ingredients, has natural flavors, it has a 0 calorie sweetener. And I am wanting something that is like pure for myself. And I said, I can guarantee and know that there are other people out there looking for the same thing. And there was no other protein powder on the market that did not have natural flavors or a fake sweetener. It didn't have gums because so many protein powders have like gums now and additives and all of these things. So I said, can we do like a limited edition? Can I create a formula? Can I do this? And by God's grace, okay, this would not have happened. Like the Lord really provided because the CEO, he was like, okay, like we were pretty close by then. He's like, let's try it. So we did a limited edition run. It sold out 3 times.
Wow.
That was back in 2018. It is now 2024. Fast forward, we started with one flavor. We now have 3 flavors. I have also an L-glutamine powder for gut health to help restore the gut lining. I have a protein powder bake for baking. And then we are coming out with a few other products later this year. And we're expanding. It's now called Bethany's Pantry under the New Zest label. So anything from Bethany's Pantry is does not have natural flavors. It does not have gums. I chose to sweeten it with organic coconut sugar, and the sugar is still very low. It's like either, depending on the flavor, 3 grams to 5 grams per like 2 scoops. So it's still very low. It's low glycemic. It's paleo friendly. And the really cool thing, it is a pea protein. So it's pea protein based, but we actually remove the lectins from the peas. So there's no anti-nutrients in it. And that's what makes my protein powder so much easier to digest than other pea protein powders is we do remove the lectins and the anti-nutrients. We also source our yellow European peas from Europe, which in Europe, it's actually illegal to spray pea crops with glyphosate. So there's like no chance it's being sprayed with glyphosate because it's actually illegal. And so it just comes from a really good source. For example, the vanilla protein powder, we use real vanilla beans, not vanilla flavor. So it's just really pure, really basic. It contains Bacillus coagulans, which is a probiotic that does not need refrigeration, which has been clinically shown to specifically help with digestive issues and candida. It's specifically shown to help kill off candida, this Bacillus coagulans probiotic. So I mean, God has really provided and made my journey, my past, we've been able to make it into something good and to really now help others. And I don't believe I would be here today speaking with you, Judy, if it wasn't for the struggles I had to endure.
Yeah, I mean, through your journey, so many people get to have healthier options in ways of eating and healing the gut. I mean, glutamine is pretty much in so many gut supports to help heal the gut lining, as you said. And knowing how much you investigate and research your products or products that you consume, there's like a security knowing that since you do that for your own self, obviously your products will also support that, in being able to trust the ingredients that you use because you went through your own journey of health struggles, especially with the gut. So you are very mindful of the products and how it supports the gut. So it totally makes sense. If you don't mind, do you mind sharing, where does faith fall into your health journey? Was it a big part? Like, just curious.
I love that you asked this question, Judy, because I don't get asked this enough. So I'm a daughter of Christ and I am a believer, and faith is something it's very big in my life. And I was thankful And I'm very grateful to have been brought up in a Christian home. Both my parents were Christians, and so I had that that base, growing up. But being a Christian, they don't promise your life is going to be easy. And in fact, they say it's going to be harder.
Right.
And so during a really hard time, I had my parents to rely on, that encouragement. I really couldn't go out anywhere, couldn't even go to church. And I remember this one time where I thought my heart was going to stop. I was just so sick. And I called my mom. I said, "Can you not go to church?" It was a Sunday morning. I said, "Can you not go to church this morning? Can you just be here with me? Because I don't know if I'm going to die today." And oh my gosh, I'm even getting emotional thinking about it. Um, and she says, "Of course." We prayed, and I think what really helps, even till this day, because we all have fear and anxiety, and we all go through just the fear of the unknown. But what has really helped me is knowing where I'm going to go after this life, and being sure, because if you don't know, if you're unsure, then that can be really scary. But to really know and have that security of like, okay, whatever happens, Lord, whatever happens if I get in the car, my life is in your hands, and to really just kind of let go is so freeing. And that right there, to just not worry, can really help your healing journey in your health, just to not have that anxiety all the time. So I feel like it really does tie in. And I don't mean to be like, preacher here, but that's what really helps me. And that's where, I can find peace.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I think it's so important because when we think that we are in control of everything and we have to find the answers to fix us, whether it's chronic illness, a broken relationship, a job, just even our future and everything that's going on, when we think that we have to be in the driver's seat for everything and find the answers, and until we find the answers and we're better, then I can't sleep. That level of stress on your nervous system, and then being in that fight or flight, your digestive system will never be on or be optimal, and your immune system will be, down in the dumps. You'll never fully heal. But if you can believe that there is a higher power that is in control, and so maybe your journey in this world is to have a little bit of chronic illness, so maybe your story saves other people, right? There's like a bigger picture that we don't understand, and because this world is temporary, I think it's just easier to go through things and know that, yeah, this world is fallen, this world isn't perfect, and through this all, eventually I get to go home, and I don't have to be in control. And just being able to understand that you don't have to be in control, I think allows you to even get into a rest and digest space, so that maybe tomorrow something will happen and you'll feel better or you'll get better. And yes, do all the things like eat the right foods and try to live less with less stress. But I think when we think we have to own everything and manage and be the person that knows everything, that level of stress is not meant for us. And I think that alone, really, for me, being a practitioner, it has given me peace too, because I want to fix everybody, right? And maybe that's not my role in certain people's lives, and I have to understand that. And I just think having a faith, it just brings you peace. And so thank you. I appreciate you sharing. One last question is, what's your favorite recipe? If someone wanted to try one of your recipes, what is your go-to recipe that you would recommend?
Oh man. Well, I feel like a lot of my page is dessert focused.
Okay.
And so something that is a very popular recipe is my cookie dough bread. And it is keto. It is very low carb, and it only requires 4 ingredients. It's grain free. It's zero sugar. And you're thinking cookie dough bread. Okay, so get a pen and paper. Have your listeners write this down. All you need are 4 eggs, 1 cup of cashew butter, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And you're going to just mix all that up, and you can add sugar-free chocolate chips, mix that in if you want, and you're going to bake it in the oven at 350 for about 30 to 40 minutes. That's it.
Wow. I'm gonna have to try that for my kids. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find, if people wanted to try your powder, and your Instagram, your website, if you could just share where people can find you?
Yeah, well, thanks. So you can find me at Little Sipper, Lilsipper, on Instagram. That's where I'm mostly active. Littlesipper.com is my blog. You can find me on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I also have my own podcast, Digest This. And then my protein powder, it's Bethany's Pantry. And we're actually currently under construction regarding the website, but you can access it through the Newsest website as well. You can find Bethany's Pantry on Instagram, or you can just, again, look up me, Little Sipper, and then you can find all that there too.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing your journey. I really wanted people to understand that sometimes, even if it's not just meat that you're eating, you can heal. And I think the puree story, I think while it's hard, it has helped you get to where you are today. And, you look vibrant. I think that's, great. And it's a testimony that you can heal. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of perseverance. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Judy. It's a pleasure.
Bethany really does have so many recipes that are fun and easy to make and is with real foods, doesn't use sweeteners, and is also supportive of the gut. You may want to check out her recipes and also her protein powder. In terms of using sweeteners and sugars and other foods other than meat for healing, it is really bio-individual. If you don't want to go strict carnivore, you can try to leave in certain plants that may be less harmful to the gut. For example, as Bethany brought up, using cucumbers and taking off the skin. If you don't find healing, then you may want to consider going stricter and stricter. The other option is to go really strict and do a carnivore cure elimination diet and start really strict and then slowly add back in. This will be very, very individualized. And so there is no right answer. What's most important is to find a way to eat that you can do consistently and that provides you healing. And ultimately, that will depend on you. And that's why I am a huge fan of a food and mood journal. And I'll link to a food and mood journal below that's free from us. If you guys try out her recipe, let me know in the comments. And if any of you guys try to remove natural flavors and you feel better, please make sure to let me know also in the comments. Okay, guys, make sure to eat a lot of meat and take care of your bodies because it is the only place you have to live. I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.